What's up, everybody? It's Thursday, so you know what that means. It's another episode of InfoSec Unplugged. I am your humble host, Davin Jackson, also known as DJax Alpha on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for joining. Before we get started, just going to go through the quick sponsors. So this week's episode has been sponsored by our same sponsors every week. We have Udemy. I think you can see that on the screen. Udemy is an online training platform that has over 130 something thousand courses. You can learn anything you want. They're always doing a sale, so you can definitely grab 3-4 for the cost of a boot camp, or actually a whole lot cheaper than a boot camp. So make sure you check them out. Our next one is Webroot. It's right here on my face. But Webroot is a cybersecurity and antivirus company. Their antivirus software is great. I use it personally on all my devices. You can use it to, basically protect your machine from any threats online. Setup is easy. It's a simple click, and just download the product key. I'm just drawing a blank. And finally, we have the WeHack Purple Academy. The WeHack, I'm laughing because my guest, but the WeHack Purple Academy is an online trading academy run by Tanya Janca, and she is also known as She Hacks Purple. It focuses on teaching people the ins and outs of application security in a fun and easy way. She breaks down the foundations of application security in 3 different courses that you can learn individually, or you can get as a bundle. And each bundle also includes her book, Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. So go check that out. You can find the links for all of them in the description. And, anytime you do, you're supporting them, but you're also supporting the show, and I greatly appreciate it. So now that we got that out of the way, it's funny that I also talk about the WeHack Purple Academy because my guest here is the owner and the trainer and author of the previous product that I just mentioned. So ladies and gentlemen, everybody in the chat, Wolfpack, welcome Tanya Janca.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. You probably got to see me giggling in the chat. He said we hack purple, and I went.
I did. It just kind of threw me off, but it's all right. It's okay. We're live. So, like I said, thank you for joining. I know you're busy, obviously, because you have your own show that you also do on Thursdays. But why don't you go ahead and let the people know who you are and talk about how you got started?
Okay, so I'm a giant nerd on the internet. Basically, I was true though. Like if I go to a party, how do I explain to people what I do? So I was a dev for a really long time, and then I discovered security. And basically, I'm an ethical hacker, and he wanted to teach me. And after 1.5 years of convincing me, we started like a mentor-mentee relationship, and I became his apprentice. And then eventually he hired me. And then I did pen testing for a while, but after, I don't know, basically every engagement I would go, and then I just kept talking to the devs and helping them fix things and doing more and more of that. And then I found out that application security, it's kind of like you get to still break things and learn lots of technical things, but you get to talk to devs all day and kind of help them. And it turned out that was the right job for me. I couldn't leave an engagement. I couldn't, I found all these bugs. I'm like, who's going to help them fix them? And so I started doing that. And then I started speaking at conferences, honestly and truly, so I could get in free. Did you know that you get in free? That's literally the whole reason. I was like, you can get in free. And then I found out, because I got like better and better at speaking because I really sucked at the beginning. And then some of them started sending me plane tickets. And I was like, are you kidding? They're like, yeah, we'll give you a hotel. I'm like, shut up. And then Microsoft called and said, hey, do you want to do what you're doing for us? I'm like, that's not a job. They're like, yeah, I'll just like write blogs and like do security research and just speak at conferences and just say, by the way, I'm from Microsoft. And I was like, shut up. Then so I did that for 1.5 years. And now, like Davin was telling us, I started a company and we're called WeHack Purple, and we give training. And it's so exciting to like work for yourself. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining. So, yeah, I'm a bit jealous 'cause I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier about certain things, but we'll get into that. It's not about me; it's about you.
I think I retweeted your where can I do all of these things? And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like I said, it's definitely a great feeling. So, I think the first time I came across, well, I mean, I've seen you on Twitter, but I think the first interaction I think we had was during one of the OWASP DevSlop streams. And then I think I reached out to you because that's when I was starting to do my API talk, and I was looking for an application to tinker around with, and you told me to contact them about Pixie. But you talked about how you started off doing the pen testing side, and then you moved into like the application security side because
mhm.
that was basically where you fit. Was that a I mean was that one I mean was that like a really a challenge for you, and if so you could speak on that or any other challenges that you have faced?
I honestly, I found it so hard to convince people to let me join InfoSec. So I started, and I'd been a dev like 17 years. So I'd been like a sysadmin. I had like set up top secret networks. I had done counterterrorism activities, been a DB, like just every single check job you could do, but mostly dev. And so it's like I already know all the rules of like the general rules of security because I did counterterrorism activities, but I'm just like, okay, so I'm going to learn security testing and do it. And there's a lot of gatekeeping. I remember someone saying, I worked for the government, and he's like, well, you're going to have to take a demotion down to the beginner level because you're a beginner. And I was like, ha ha ha, no, I don't. And then 4 months later, I was his boss. Um,
I love it. I love the energy. I love it.
Yeah, I even got to be a CISO for a bit. And I ran the election, the security for the election in Canada in 2015, the first time we voted in Justin Trudeau. Trudeau's dad used to be the prime minister. So if I say the first time we voted in Trudeau, people think it's like, like the year I was born sort of thing. But no, the second Trudeau.
The other one.
The one with the hair.
Oh man.
Have
I
you
don't know.
seen the
Oh,
videos of like when
oh
he does
yeah.
this and
Yeah, I yeah. So, okay. So now you went from doing stuff for the government, you've done counterterrorism, you've been in the corporate world. What then makes you decide I'm going to leave all of that behind and I'm going to start an academy and I'm just going to venture out on my own? What led to that decision?
So the travel schedule at Microsoft was very hard on my health. And so I knew I couldn't continue doing it. And also my doctor was like, I'll quit being your doctor if you don't stop this stupidness. Because like being away for like 5 months straight, it's pretty intense. Being on an airplane up to 1 week, I was on an airplane 76 hours. And I was just like, I'm so tired all the time. So I was like, I have to do something else. So I had a friend and he was like, join a startup with me. I'm starting this startup. And so I was like, okay, so, I'm exhausted, so I'm going to leave and I'll do this because apparently running a startup isn't exhausting.
Yeah.
So, so I started the startup with him very quickly. So like when you found a company with someone, it's like you're getting married. Seriously, it's like all the things that you talked about before that you totally agreed on when you put it in writing. So very quickly I was like, okay, let's separate before we don't like each other very much. And you keep doing what you're doing and I'll just like wish you well. And then I'm not sure what. So I took on like little consulting here and there, but all these people kept saying, hey, can I pay you to train my devs? And I was like, oh, okay. Can you train our devs? Oh, okay. Can you train these other devs? Oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, So I actually put a tweet out onto Twitter and said, I don't know what I should do. What should I do? And then, like a bunch of people were like, come work at my company. A bunch of them were like, please come do developer relations. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'll die. I didn't know 2020 was going to happen. And then we were all going to get to stay home.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't do that anymore. And so then people kept saying, will you please start a training company so I can take your training? Like people literally wrote me and were like, could you please do it? Like, how you have this talk, if you like fleshed it out with examples, I would pay to take that course. And I was like, oh, okay. So I made like a minimal viable product. And I just like what I would want to learn if I was going to learn how to do AppSec. Like all the things I've learned at conferences, all the training I've taken, all the smart individuals I've been so lucky to meet and talk to. And then we sold a whole bunch, like 130. And I was like, yes, this seems to be working. And I also made this online community where I would just basically share like lots and lots of blog posts, and they pay $7 and then I get them. Yeah. Yeah. Are you writing down $7?
Go on.
Yeah. So like I literally, before I knew it, I was like getting, like around $1,000 of income per month from the blog articles I was writing. And then, all these people bought the course, and then people were like, can you come in and train? And I was like, I can virtually train because I'm very afraid of COVID. But then we took it. So then I started hiring some staff, and I threw out the first one and redid it into 3 complete courses with like assignments and much, much nicer video and sound. And we put it all up, and then people bought some of that. And I was like, oh, this is very promising. So we just, basically we've decided that we want to be a company and we think this can work. And so we're actually right about to do like a facelift. So we just released a brand new, totally new platform academy like last week. And next week we're releasing a brand new community platform. And then the following week, we're going to be a whole new website. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then it's going to be secure coding training and then DevSecOps.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So I have I'm not going to say that. I don't want to get in trouble. But I guess, yeah, that would definitely explain it, especially, you're charging for blog posts. I didn't even know that was a thing. But I mean, so what do you have in those blog posts that, I mean, are they highly technical, or are they just,
So part of the people that joined were just like, I really love what you're doing and I get so much value out of what you do. I can buy you 1 latte a month. And I just don't care. Like a lot of people who do AppSec make like $100K a year. So it used to be $7. The new academy, because we're offering so much more, it's going to be $9.99 a month or $99 a year. But basically, the new platform's way better. So the old platform was just me sending lots of blog articles to people, and it, for instance, like how to make an in-house risk score. And like all the things that you could weigh to do that. And so I did like a 3-part series on like how you can gather metrics, which metrics to gather, how to add them all together to get the thing that you want. And that was like, 2 or 3 weeks worth of content. But now with the new platform, I've like upped the ante. So you can say I'm beginner AppSec, or I'm beginner InfoSec, or I want super advanced stuff, or I want cloud security. And you'll get an email every week to your inbox with content. And then there's all these different areas that you can go and talk to people. So imagine like Facebook, how there's like different groups you can join, except for no advertising and no spying. And then you can go and talk to those people, but there's also like a ton of articles, and people can share articles from other people. And then there's like an Ask Me Anything area that we just created. And it's going to be like, bring your problems for work and let's smash them. I freaking love technical discussion. So like, yeah, and so we're gonna have like another area where it's secure design, and it's like, yeah, let's like analyze designs together. Like I'm so down. This is like my favorite types of stuff to do, right? And also like the community, they share and they answer and they contribute, and so they all get to kind of be together, if that makes sense. And then we also do live events where we'll get together and maybe we'll build like a pipeline. And then I always like break it. That's how I am. But we'll build something, and then, you know, like the next week we'll go to meet up and one of them's like, I built a GitHub action. Can we use it? I'm like, yeah. Or like, I made a pull request, and we like build stuff together. It's super fun. I wanted to make a place where no one was mean, because Twitter has a lot of not so niceness on it.
Yeah. Twitter, the gift and the curse.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And like, people are really nice to me on Twitter, mostly because I have a zillion followers.
Mm-hmm.
But people are still sometimes mean to me, but I am used to it because I used to be in a punk rock band, and I've been a woman in tech for like 23 or 4 years or whatever. And so like, I'm used to a certain level of abrasiveness, but the We Act Purple community has a strict code of conduct. And if you're mean, you go. You can't see it, so I'm like, you go. we have a band hammer, and we're serious about it. Also, like, I made my own t-shirt. I just have to show you.
I saw. Nice.
And also, because I can't help myself, like, I was like, I'm going to be on InfoSec Unplugged. Let's do this.
That's awesome. So, but speaking to community, I have to, you know, shout out my pack. Every week you guys come through. I appreciate you guys, and like always, you know the environment here is welcome, so you can ask anything. And like I said, keep it clean and keep it respectful, because I match energy all the time, and you don't want that side of me. So everybody is saying hello.
Hi,
So
I see everyone. Can we say hi back? Is that an option?
Absolutely. That's why it's live. That's why it's live. I wanted to basically bring the people together.
I guess I can't figure out how to.
Oh, to comment.
Yeah.
You could just say hi for now, I guess.
Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you.
So, in since we're talking about writing and stuff, I mean, you obviously enjoy it. You get paid. You get paid to do it. But you also put out a book, and I actually have. Yep.
Yay!
And I gotta say, I love the book. I love how you break it down. You know, using the examples that kind of, you know, you simplify it. And a lot of times when people talk about tech, or people get intimidated with tech, is because, you know, the technical jargon or the tech speak. And for one, everybody knows Alice and Bob, especially if you have anything to do with tech. You've read about Alice and Bob at some point in your training, but you use them as in the example. But then you also use examples that are relatable. Like you talk about, you know, you get a house built, and then you decide, you know, 2/3 in, oh, I want to put a bathroom in. Like I said, I think it's just a great book for everyone to get and understand. I'll be honest, I didn't quite understand application security when I first got into it. So again, not about me. Why don't you? But you could talk about your experiences with Alice and Bob learn application security.
I wanted to write a book that was easy to understand. I'm actually dyslexic, so in Canada that's considered learning disabled. But basically, like, I read books all the time, but textbooks are a special place in hell for me. It's really hard. Like, I own the Webapp Hacker's Handbook, and honestly, I've never been able to finish it. Like, it's super brilliant. Like, the guy that wrote it, Daff, he's genius. Yeah. But I find it really hard. I struggle. And so I was like, how can I share all, because there's no AppSec book, like how to be an AppSec engineer book, right? And I was like, I want one to exist because we need more AppSec professionals, right? So I was like, I want to make a book that is like fun to read and easy to understand. And so we did a bit like to break it into tiny pieces and like constantly, because they're like wall of text not allowed. And so like I told the publishers I want it to be the easiest to understand technical book we could make. So I ended up having to like rewrite parts of it over and over. So it would be like easier and easier to understand, and also, you know, explain things the same explain the same concept but in a different way multiple times. Like at one point, one of my technical editors was like, Tanya, this is the third time you're explaining CI/CD in a new way. Like, you already said it once. You don't have to say it again. Like, this picture is not required. And I was like, actually, sir, like, it's a really complex topic, like the idea of CI/CD and like what the difference is between continuous integration, delivery, and deployment. And so like drawing my own image for it and like elaborating certain parts and then like explaining it with a story. And then, do you know what I mean? And like, that's the way I learn. So rather than them hopefully having to get like another textbook or do further reading, it's like, oh, I'll just keep reading the book. And then I mention it again. I'm like, oh yeah, remember CI/CD? Let me tell you more about it. So I think it went pretty well. And I talked to my publisher and they are down for the next one of Alice and Bob Learn.
Oh, so that was the next question. But it's funny you mentioned the Web Application Hackers Handbook.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've gone through this. I keep it close by, but it definitely can be tough to read. I actually mentor somebody and I recommended the book and they were like, yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you there's a certain level of dedication and insanity to actually
my sister actually took the book because I kept not finishing it, and she cut it into 3 and brought it to Staples and had them put holes in it and bind it in 3 separate parts for me. So she's like, see, you've read this one, so now you just need to read these 2. And I was like, I love the encouragement you're trying to do here. And then she even like put it through this scanner so I could listen to like this mechanical voice read it to me. It was awful. It was so awful.
Yeah.
She was really trying to be supportive.
I can just imagine you having to read the book and then having it being read to you in like a robot type voice.
I know.
So
it's bad.
Yeah. So
I have a thing. About the book that I want a little tiny announcement if you're cool.
Oh no, go for it.
So at the back of each chapter, there's questions. And I'm holding live streams starting March 20th, once a month until Christmas of this year, where I'm going to have a bunch of different people from industry come and we're going to discuss the questions at the end of each chapter. So we're going to do all 11 chapters. First one, March 20th, and it's going to be free on YouTube. And basically just like, I'm just inviting like basically lots of OWASP people. And we're just going to talk out the answers, because how do you secure a car operating system is not 2 sentences answer. Do you know what I mean? And that's how much space I had in the answer key. And so we're going to go through and discuss all the points with the idea that, because I was allowed 250 pages, because otherwise it would be really long, like the other book, right? So I'm like, let's have discussions to like go in depth to these questions.
Right. Yeah. Right. And like I said, I will say, application security, when you first hear about it, at least how it was approached to me when I got approached about working and doing application security, it was just like, oh yeah, it's just like pen testing a web app. And I said, oh, okay, sure. It could be. How hard could it be? For one, yes, there are certain elements of it, but I had to learn the hard way that no, there's definitely big differences in application security, as opposed to web app security, and like I said, watching the talks that you guys were doing on the DevSlop channel, and then following some of your stuff. And then I was also introduced to the OWASP API Top 10, which actually led to give that SandStalk. And I think a combination of those 3 made it make so much more sense to me. But it still sometimes feels like I'm in I love the product placement.
Thank you. It's empty. My marketing team's like, you have to show those once per video.
But yeah, like I said, it does still sometimes feel like I'm on a foreign island, right?
Yeah.
and that's where it just kind of gets frustrating. So I guess what I want to do is have you explain the differences between, regular, I wouldn't say regular, because it's all cybersecurity, but the
Yeah.
differences between application and web app.
Okay, so an application is any piece of software, and there doesn't have to be a front end. So an API is an application. The desktop, like anything that you have installed on your phone, is an application. Every website that you go to, almost all of them are not websites, they're applications, right? And so a web application means it's on the web, but you can have a desktop application. You can have a hybrid or a mobile application. So like a hybrid is where basically some of it's a web app and some of it is actually installed on your phone. But in summary, an application is like any kind of software. And so even like sometimes people would say that a script is an application. I don't know if I would say that, but it's a thing. Yeah, right. Like, and when you do application security, you have to try to secure all of those things. So if you're, for instance, like if you're a web app pen tester, you're going to test how a web app responds to the way you look at it and work with it and test it, right? But when you do application security, it's the whole umbrella of the security of the software where you work. So like, let's say I work with Davin and he is the web app pen tester and I'm the AppSec person. We're going to be BFFs. We're going to hang out all the time, but he's going to be smashing the crap out of the apps. Well, I would be doing things like reviewing the code, helping them review their architectures for their app. And he like might come and help me and that would be awesome. But the pen tester tests and verifies that the things are actually secure. Well, the AppSec person, for instance, like creates a secure code guideline for them to follow and then teaches it to them. And then like make sure that the pen test actually happens and like runs a program. So you need to have kind of like the technical skills to understand what people need, but then you need to have the social skills to like communicate and persuade. A ton of your job as an AppSec professional is persuading people to make time in their project schedule to fix the things you found. And when I was a pen
Oh God, talk about
it. Yeah, when I was a pen tester, so like a secret of pen testers that a lot of things like people don't talk about is that, so like I'll go and I would pen test something and then they wouldn't fix it and then I would feel sad. And I would feel like, but I can't just leave it. Like there's just this giant, really obvious holes. Like I need you to fix them. But then you have to go to the next engagement. Like you don't have time to stay. But if you're the AppSec person, you're like, I'm not here to install a window. It's like I own the whole house, right? And so I found it really hard or very difficult to like not complete the whole thing. And so I also like I'm a super social butterfly. And so I found pen testing was like a lot of time alone. And strangely, when I was a coder, I would just code all day, no problem. But then I went into management and like leading a dev team and being an architect and doing all those things. And I got used to having like fun social time at work. And devs are my favorite people. Like when I chose to take computer science, I was accepted to like, so I'm like scholastically inclined. So I got all these awards when I graduated high school and I was accepted to every single program, like history, English, like all sorts of crap, political science, women's studies, et cetera, right? And I was like, well, like the people in my computer science class the best. So I'm going to take that. And so when you do AppSec, you basically get to like talk with devs all the time. And then you talk to the security team and you find a way forward together that doesn't scare the pants off the security people.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges that I've seen is when you come into a company where the culture is different, right? Where security isn't or wasn't the priority in the past. And now you're brought in and they're saying we want to change the culture and we want you to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think I'm a good person to talk to and get along with. I mean, I have a show, damn it. But I find it sometimes it's difficult where it's like the developers look at security as the enemy. And to your point about finding time in the schedule to test and making sure that a test happens and making sure remediations happen in a timely manner, um it usually involves a whole lot of debate and arguing. And since you've been on that side with the developers, I'm gonna basically treat you like the developer whisperer here. I've tried reasoning with I've tried reasoning with devs. I'm like, help me help you, But as soon as it gets to a listen, you got to go back and fix this. You got to we can't
Yeah.
have this using outdated third party libraries or whatever. And then it's like, screw you, right? And then it gets really heated. How do you bridge that gap between security and development to basically be one cohesive unit?
So I kid you not, I literally have 3 different modules in my school of how to do that, but I'm just going to tell you lots of secrets now. So first of all, you have to decide if it's a hill you want to die on or not, and where you can compromise appropriately. So for instance, like I was working with a client earlier this week, and they just acquired a new company. So I work with lots of different companies and like do little consultings here and there, because if I want to be able to teach cool AppSec stuff, I have to keep doing AppSec, right? So they acquired this company and we ran Checkmarx on it, which is a SAST, a static application security testing tool. And then we ran NetSparker on it, which is a DAST, a dynamic application security testing tool. And Checkmarx obliterated it. And then NetSparker was like, does not taste good. And and so we looked through the 4,000 results, and there's like a lot of problems. So I told them it's going to cost us $50,000 to make this app safe enough to put on the internet, or you have to give me money for a RASP, and I'm going to like network segment it off around from everything because it's dangerous and it's awful. So is there any sensitive information in it? And they're like, no, it's actually not sensitive, but it's a pretty important app. Like we bought this company to buy this app. It's really nice and it's fancy and customers like it. I'm like, okay. And they're like, but there's no sensitive information. I'm like, are credit cards handled? They're like, no. I'm like, personal identifiable information, health information, no. I'm like, okay. So compromise. So either you give me $50,000 to fix it, or you give me enough money for a RASP and like let me put it, like instrument it into the app, and then I'm going to put firewalls all around it, and you're not allowed talking to anything else because you suck. And then in the next year, I want you to start knocking off some of this stuff that's crappy, and eventually we can take the Band-Aid off the RASP, and you're allowed to go play on the internet, right? And they're like, well, that's pretty reasonable. And I was like, you can't go play on the internet the way it is. No. And they're like, okay. And so we came up with that as like a compromise. Because do I want them to fix all the things wrong? Yes. But when we looked, there were literally 4,000 bugs. Like they're going to have to rewrite. Like it's not happening. And also next time, like, could you please have me here first before you do the merger and acquisition so I can tell you, like, make them, take 50K off the top. So like we can essentially refactor the code so it's responsible, right? And they're like, okay, next time, like you'll get a crack at it. I'm like, thank you, right? And it's about like compromising something. So just the same, like sometimes they're just like, listen, we have to go live on Friday and that's the deal. I'm like, no, this thing is a problem and here's why. So when you explain the risk, especially how the risk applies to a real person. So I'm like, so let's say Jennifer is taking your online course, and Jennifer's doing all this nice stuff, but she has a colleague named Brad, and Brad's very competitive. And like, if he's able to see her scores, it might not seem like the end of the world to you, but it's really important to Brad and Jennifer because they're best friends and they compete, let's say, right? But it would be really bad if someone that is not Brad or Jennifer gets everyone's scores and then they put them on the internet. That could be really embarrassing and humiliating. And so we talk about like the exact things that could happen to real live people, like their customers. And it's like, how would that make your business look, right? Like do you think people will still want to buy our product? And when you explain kind of the real and the likelihood of the risk too, because sometimes I'm like, oh, that's internal to our network. And if you're willing to, apply some zero trust to that, then I'm okay. Right. Yeah. And quite often it's a lot of like us drawing stuff on a board, like on a whiteboard, and me saying, okay, so from here to here, is there encryption? Cool. Once it gets there, what happens to it? Is it in memory? Are you going to put it in the local storage? Ooh, local storage on a phone, not secure. What should we do if it's are we going to encrypt it? Awesome. And like, kind of like, eventually they get used to then I poke at something else. They're like, but then by the end, like we've kind of compromised a thing. Do you know what I mean? And because I've designed apps for so long, I'm like, what if maybe that would be better. But usually like we can reach a conclusion. And if we can't, then I send it up to whoever the big boss is. And I say, this is happening. I'm advising you as your consultant. Right? But like, it's your call. It's your risk to accept. It's totally cool. It's fine. Like you own it. Right? But when I was an employee, I actually resigned twice because I was like, I cannot work here and have my name on the security program. This is embarrassing. Like no, I'm going to switch to another department and away from you. Because if you're not going to let me do my job properly, and like the decisions you're making are endangering our customers. And I'm like, I just can't, because you're going to be in the news. One place that I resigned actually it has been in the news quite a bit since I left. And every time people that know I worked there message me, they're like, oh, obviously I can't name it, but I resigned specifically. And like the big boss took me aside and she's like, listen, is anyone harassing you here? And I was like, no. She's like, you're quitting. You just got here. Like, what's going on? And I was like, they won't do the security. Like in my interview, the agreement was I was going to launch this big AppSec program. We're going to do this and that. They won't let me test anything. They keep making me write policy. I'm bored out of my mind. Like, I want to test our apps. I want to do this. And she was just like, so seriously, no one's harassing you? I'm like, everyone's really nice. I actually love working here and I don't want to quit. And I'm really frustrated that I have to leave because my teammates are actually so sweet. Like I had like a flat tire once and like every person was like, do you have a ride home? Because I'll drive you home. Do you need anything? And they're just like the nicest humans ever. And I was like, no, I wish I could keep working here, but my ethics won't allow me to. And she was like, oh, well, as long as no one's like actually being inappropriate, it's fine. And I was like, no, don't you see?
So you're saying you're not being harassed. It's just that our security sucks. Oh, well, then that's fine. Yeah, no problem.
I know.
Yeah, it's rough, and I get what you're saying about not wanting your name attached to certain things. Like especially we take that seriously as security professionals, that we want to make sure we're doing our job, and the application or the product is a reflection of us. And sometimes it's unfair. It's unfair that it's that way, because like, think about it. The people who worked at Target when Target got hit, they get a bad rep, or any other breach, they get a bad rep, and it probably wasn't them. It was probably a whole bunch of, we'll just accept the risk. What's the worst that can happen?
Yes.
Or the other thing is, well, show impact. Show me. I need you to exploit it right now. No, I can't exploit it right now because you only hired me to do a pen test for a week, and I can only do a snapshot in time, whereas an APT can literally sit here for months and just wait for the right opportunity. So, but what are the odds of that happening? Okay.
I that same place, I did that. I made this proof of concept and I emailed it to everyone on the security team and said, click this link, you've won an iPod. And they're like, Tanya, we know this link's from you. And I was like, we have 20,000 employees and you better believe it, at least one would click it. So click the button. And then it's like me framing their website and stealing their credentials, right? And they're like, oh, wow, this looks just like prod. I'm like, it is prod, right? Like, it's not that hard. And so then they're like, oh, well, it's bright yellow, Tanya. Anyone would see this and know it was wrong. I'm like, I literally spent 3/4 of the time making this exploit so that you could see it in yellow because it's normally see-through. And then they both looked at each other and they're like, okay, we're listening about security headers now. But still, like, just like battling. And another place I worked, we'd had a pen tester come in. So this was before I knew how to do any pen testing. And so I'd been like the head of the dev team and brought in a pen tester, and I was like remediating everything. And so there was a bunch of infrastructure things that I did not have the power to remediate myself. So I was like, okay, so, I need this and I need this, and no one would do anything. And I was just getting more and more frustrated, and, the big release was coming. And I was like, we can't release like this. And they're like, I don't have time for you, Tanya. I have a deadline. So I wrote up what I call the risk sign-off sheet, which has worked miracles for many of us. So I just made it up. And so I put it on company letterhead, made it look all fancy. It's like a risk acceptance sheet. And so I had the CIO and the chief departmental officer, and I was like, I need you to sign off that you accept these risks. And I listed each one of the vulnerabilities that people had just point blank refused to fix. And I said, so, for some reason, security headers is like a constant battle everywhere I work. And so I was like, the security header, this, and I explained like specific to our business exactly what could happen to a Canadian citizen. And they were like, so then the departmental security officer called, and then I put a Post-it note on it that said, could you sign this, please? Smiley face, Tanya, and put it on both their desks. She's like, patronizing, I know. And so I get this call, and he's Bill, the departmental security officer, who's like this complete total badass, and all the women in our entire org have like a collective crush on him. Like, he would want people to be like, Bill. All the men, all of us had crushes on Bill. And so
does he have the hair? Does he also have the hair?
Oh, he had the hair. And he's like, Tanya, what is this? I can't sign this. This is awful. And I'm like, no one will fix these things for me, Bill. And he's like, people have said no to you? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're only the chief of security. You're not the chief of the devs anymore. So we don't have to listen to you. And my boss said this. He's like, you go tell them Bill sent you. And if anyone has a problem, tell them to come to me. And so then I would be in a meeting. I'm like, well, Bill said, and they'd be like, and everyone fixed everything. And then we released, and we were not in the news for any bad reasons. Nothing bad happened. I remember like the big day we like release everything, and I'm like, ready. And then nothing happened. And it was like almost boring. It's like everything perfectly according to plan. I'm like, oh. Yeah.
No,
that was good.
No, that's definitely a good thing, to be bored at work and there's no fires to put out, especially on release day. So for those who don't know, like I said earlier on today on Twitter, I had literally put, where can I go and get paid to hack stuff, teach how to hack stuff, learn how to hack new stuff, teach how I teach the new hacks, the stuff that I taught, give talks, presentations about said hacking, and then also mentor. And I mean, I've gotten a lot of answers. I've gotten a lot of responses from, people from all over. So thank you for that. I've also, a lot of it were companies and people that I've already been aware of. And then there were some that I wasn't. But I also got the answer I was really looking for, which was, you're going to have to go do it yourself. And, I've been flirting with that idea back and forth. Like I said, obviously going off, and as you would know, going off and starting on your own is scary. You're leaving the idea of steady income to the unknown, and what about benefits and, stuff like that. I have a family to take care of. So, that's always my priority, over everything else. But the other thing is, I mean, I know what I'm doing. You put me in front of a keyboard and I can explain what's going on. But to actually now have to create a course or teach it, I have no idea what the hell is going on. Like I freeze up. I'm like, push the button. So I guess the question would be, if someone wanted to learn how to create a course, how and where should they get started?
Oh, so all the platforms that host courses have courses on how to create courses, because they want customers to create courses on their platforms. So I started with Podia, And then I studied more on how to make courses. And I've also been, attending other people's trainings quite a bit. So something that not that many people are probably aware of is if you're an OWASP project or chapter leader, there used to be a benefit that you got a free seat in one of the trainings if you traveled to wherever the international conference was. So there'd be 2 seats in every training reserved for leaders. So they don't do that anymore. But I would apply to speak, get into the conference for free, and pay my airplane, share a hotel with another woman, and then get the free seat and the training. So I've been to at least 2 OWASP conference trainings for years until this, 2020, everything's awful. And that was a big strategy for me. It's being able to get into those things. So another thing I've done is traded with other professors. You can come in my course if I can come in your course and vice versa. I've also, so I try to advocate for other people a lot. So often, if I'm training somewhere, I'll ask if I'm allowed to give a free seat to someone who I know definitely can't afford to go. Or sometimes I've been able to convince other professors to give a free seat to a woman that I know who doesn't whatever, right? So when Microsoft was paying to fly me around, I'm I have this hotel room all to myself. So sometimes I would have 1 or 2 or 3 other women stay with me so we could all go for free. And then I would call some of the trainers and I'm so is there a seat in your classroom that we could potentially use? So there's a lot of I'll do you this favor if you do me that favor sort of things that can happen. But I would say if you want to know how to do good training, it's watch other people's training, pay close attention to the things that you don't like. So for instance, I don't like it when someone won't answer the questions. They're just save them till the end, save them till the end. And usually that person's stuck somewhere, right? Or I don't like it. Sometimes professors will get really frustrated with the audience. And I'm you know what? You're the one that decided to become a teacher, right? If you're they don't know it. That's why they're in the class. Don't get frustrated. They don't know it, dude. Or, some teachers go way too fast. I went to this machine learning, artificial intelligence hacking workshop. And so I actually wanted to go really, really badly. So it was at another conference, but my workshop was at the same time. So I'd missed it. So then I'd actually applied and got into another conference where the same dude was giving his workshop. And I was oh yes, I'm finally going to get to go. And I was you can't put me at the same time as him because I want to go to his thing that badly. And so I stayed an extra day in Montreal to go to this workshop. And he was an awful teacher. And he was a brilliant genius, brilliant, super genius dude who knows things inside and out. He's you just click, 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 click. And then you do this. And then you write this little script in this language I'm not going to show you. And then this, and then you've just hacked AI and ML. And I was great. Can we go through the steps and do it together now? And he's I just showed you. And then he seemed so frustrated. And he's next example. And I was what? Wait, what? And I look around and I'm am I stupid? And everyone else gets this but me? I hate that feeling where I feel I'm super behind. Yeah. And then he went to the next one. And so all of us were trying to click with him while he was doing the thing. And we're could you slow down? And missing. And he's no, I'll show you after. And so then we're he's stop trying to go along with me. You're slowing me down. And then he does the thing. And then after we're okay, where are the steps? He's I just showed you. And I was just I feel like a loser. So I took careful notes about that and try really hard. If I am teaching something, it's step back, slow down, remember how you felt in that moment and make sure you're not making your audience feel that way. Cause that sucked. And I'd done so many things just so I could attend this workshop. And I'm and I was really, really, really interested. And I was just I ended up walking out of the workshop and just feeling really stupid and defeated. And later I was maybe it's not me, right? But at the time I was just oh, I'm awful. And I don't want to. So if you can watch the way other people train. And also another thing is, so someone on my podcast taught me this. Brian Anderson. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but I do because he's awesome. And he was when you make training, then go over it And anything that's not actually helpful, take it out. So sometimes you're like, oh, and then there's this other thing that's like somewhat related, but it's like not a thing they really need to know. He's like, take it out. There's only so much space in people's brains. Don't waste it on superfluous topics to show how smart you are. Show them what they actually need to go be awesome at their jobs. And I was like, Brian, I am taking notes. Yeah, he was great. He gave me a lot of food for thought.
No, that's helpful. So, chat, we are going to get to the Q&A. I just have a few more questions for Tanya. Another thing, and I've said, you've touched on this a few times, and I think this is a goal for just about everybody who actually cares. Well, actually, before we even get to that, I think one of the other things you have to be in order to be a trainer or to teach a course is you do have to have a passion to help others, right? You have to really care about making sure that they succeed. And like I said, I know I have that, right? So it's just a matter of putting all the other pieces together and just kind of getting over the nervousness. But the other thing that I do have a passion for, and it sounds like you do too, is changing the landscape, I guess, in cybersecurity or in technology as a whole. And you talked about how, you'll bring other women along with you to these conferences and stuff like that. But what do you think? What is your opinion on how we can get more women or more diversity into cybersecurity? Because I think that's important, and I think that's a security risk itself.
Yes. So I have like 50 ideas, but I'll just tell you a few. So my company is going to make an announcement on International Women's Day, but I'll just spoil it now. So we're officially starting a diversity sponsorship program. So it's like a scholarship that people can apply for if they're from an underrepresented group in tech. And so that can be like a disabled or not fully abled person, a neuroatypical person, a woman, a person of color, or a person who in their country, they are a minority, if that makes sense. So like a person who's Indian who lives in India is not a minority, but a person who's Indian that lives in Canada is, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so then companies for marketing opportunities are sponsoring people to take our program. So this is actually a topic that's super important to me personally. So we're matching every sponsor at 2-to-1. So this really cool company, 10 Security, they're like, yeah, we'll sponsor one person every month for a few months. And so that means 3 people will get to go and take our entire AppTech Foundations program. And then if they do all the work, then they get to graduate and get a certificate. And so that's one thing that we're doing. We could also use our power for good. I know that sounds, it sounds like I'm simplifying things, but for instance, like every time I'm on a podcast, after I ask the host, hey, do you want a list of totally kick-ass women that I recommend to be on your podcast? And they're like, whoa, yes. And so I have this list and I like rotate it so as soon as someone's been on a few podcasts, then I rotate it. So it's someone else that's less known.
Right.
Or like, there's so many different ways that we can advocate for other people and like use our power for them, if that makes sense. And so like I run a training school. So then that means I can give lots of extra people training. And so I feel like, first of all, if you put it out there that you can help people, people will come to you. So for instance, for us, like setting up a scholarship that people can apply for, but like just companies are like, we want to, sponsor We Hack Purple podcast or something. And I'm like, awesome, that's cool. We're sold out until blah. Do you want to sponsor like a woman of color taking our course? We'll give 3 out if you pay for 1, and we'll thank you publicly. And you're actually like performing good in the world. And they're like, I'd like to sign up for that. Yeah. Right. And so we're like finding ways where we can still pay our bills, but we can also like perform good. And so part of my life goals is to perform good, if that makes sense. And there's lots of things that like people that have less power can do. So for instance, every Monday on Twitter, I do Cyber Mentoring Monday. And so there's this hashtag Cyber Mentoring Monday. And what you see on Twitter is the tip of the iceberg. So you'll see me tweet, it's Cyber Mentoring Monday. And you'll see, 5 or 6 other people tweet it too. And you'll see a couple people respond. But what you don't see is, that one person is like, I think I want to be a pen tester, but I'm not sure. Does someone want to talk? And then someone goes into their direct messages and says like, hi, I've been a pen tester for like 5 years. Do you want to talk? Let's have like a virtual Zoom session and we could both like drink fancy coffees together. It's true though, like having a virtual coffee can just like change the life of someone. In between when my first startup failed and I started my second startup, I just put my Calendly link on the internet. I was like, yeah, just book me if you want to hang out. And so I ended up meeting with like tons and tons of people that have just been following me a long time and just like gave them awesome career advice and like introduced them to people and just like did good deeds. Cause I'm super burned out. I like can't work. But I could still like hang out with cool people and I met all these awesome humans. This one woman's like, I'm thinking of starting a company, but I don't know. And I was like, go get them, Crystal. And then like a month later, she called me. She's like, I did this and that. I was like, yeah. And so like someone who has only worked in our industry 2 years could still reach out to someone new and welcome them. And like, that means a lot. And if we want more women and like non-straight, cis, white, males that are tall and good looking to like, do you know what I mean? Like the ultimate privilege card. Like if we want every type of person, then you can specifically reach out and try to help all those people, right? And like put that extra effort in or like reach out your hand slightly more often. And like, yeah, I know I'm biased. So I always explain to my staff I'm biased. So I actually am having someone else read the sponsorship applications because I will only pick women. I know this, and that's not fair. And so I have some staff that are less biased that are all going to end up like selecting who the right people are to go first and second and third, et cetera. Because there's always going to be more demand than there is supply, unfortunately, right? And so it's also about knowing our bias. So I know I'm super biased towards helping women, but there are still lots of men that could use a hand up, right? And so if I can recognize that in myself, that's like half the battle, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And like I said, I can speak to that because I know a couple times I've tweeted certain things and then like you've reached out and said, hey, well, what are you looking for? And I'm like, I don't know. But but you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's nothing to you, but words of encouragement can go a long way. Just being there sometimes can help in ways that you would never imagine. So,
and words of encouragement for you specifically, like you can partner with other companies. So that's the thing that I've learned since starting my company is that lots of other little companies are actually super open to helping you or working with you, or like I'll refer you customers, you refer me customers. So for instance, like I don't do pen testing anymore and I do AppSec kind of like long-term engagements a few hours a week with like a very small set of clients. But people are like, oh, I need, someone to do AppSec full time for like 6 months, or I need this, or I need that. So I now have like a list of companies where I trust them and I know their resources are good. And so I'm like, I can refer those people. And then I have them referring back to me. It's like, oh, someone needs training. Like, our customer has this AppSec program. They just hired this junior person. They want to take your training. Can you like make that a reality? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so like forming relationships with lots of other smaller companies, like for instance, Threadfix and Denim Group, like they've been sponsoring my podcast for months. They're like so ridiculously nice to me. And like, whenever I'm like, hey, do you want to renew for next month? They're like, yeah. They're like, what else can we do for you? Just like, they've just been like, do you know what I mean? And so there are some crappy companies out there. There's now like a short list of companies we'll never do business with again. And companies where it's like, am I going to have to send you for collections? Like, pay us this $1,000. Do you understand how small we are? This is a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's probably lots of people that might be very interested in meeting you, and you don't have to teach courses to be helpful. Like I have this long-term engagement where I'm just like turning their AppSec program around 5 hours a week, and we meet twice a week with their team, and like sometimes it's me like smashing results out of a tool that they're not sure about. Sometimes it's us building a pipeline or whatever, and like I just meet with them twice every week forever. And I'm not willing to work there full time because I want to run my business, but I still get to get my hands dirty and do stuff I like. And so you could definitely do a thing. So, and they hired a junior person, and I'm like basically training him into an AppSec ninja. And so then eventually, like the idea is he's going to take over full time, and they're going to leave the nest, right? So one of my clients left the nest in December, and I was like, you're so amazing now, you don't need me anymore. And so then like a new one was like, oh, do you have space? I'm like, yeah, great. So you could do stuff like that, and you don't have to teach courses, but you're still like essentially building up other people, building up, do you know what I mean? And you still get to do cool stuff, but you're also your own boss.
Right. No, that's amazing.
It's an option.
Yeah.
A lot of companies can't afford a full-time AppSec person. So you could be their part-time security ninja.
Well, like I said, I have to get along better with the developers first. So, all right. So we're gonna, like I said, we're getting down to the last couple questions, and then we'll do some Q&A.
Okay.
So,
okay. Should we tell everyone about the show later today?
I was gonna get there.
I'm sorry, jumping the gun.
But yeah, like I said, so what are your goals for 2021?
So I want to finish making my company all official with the new website, the new community, and the new academy's already out. So all that's happening in like the next 2-3 weeks. And then I want to create like a on-demand secure coding course that just knocks every person's socks off ever. So I already have like this afternoon workshop that I teach, but I want it to be hands-on and really intense. And then I want to create a DevSecOps course because I just keep making pipelines all the time. So I might as well make courses about how to do it. But then I want to make a secure design course. And I want it to be like a security architecture, secure design. And like we just go over a crap ton of designs. And I make, the students, so I teach them the concepts, but then it's like, okay, so here's a new design. So where should there be encryption? Where should there be authentication? Where should there be this? Where should there? Do you think that this is a good idea? Why not, etc. And like just have them break down like design after design after design. Because once you do like 10 or 15 of them, like you're pretty awesome. And you could go into meetings with a client and ask the right questions. Because that is a lot of my consulting time. It's a lot of like us drawing stuff out and then me asking the same questions and just pointing across the board and then saying like, here's my suggestions and like just adding stuff in. And then they're like, oh, well, that's better. I'm like, okay, see you next time. And I feel like if people do a bunch of them and see a bunch of them, they can start applying it at work pretty quickly. Yeah, so I made like this chart of all the courses that I want to build for We Hack Purple. And it was like an Excel spreadsheet and like size 8 font. And it was a whole page. And so, yeah, so.
Is pen testing one of them?
No, I'm not. So like everyone teaches pen testing. So I feel like I don't have to because I feel.
But application pen testing is different.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Especially when you're dealing with APIs and stuff like that. That's a whole other.
Yeah. Thing. Yeah. So I was thinking of making like a DAST course and then showing like several different DAST tools and then having them work with different tools and then find vulnerabilities. And then like you have to find the vulnerability in order to put it in the test and pass your quiz.
Okay.
And then a SAST course, and then an IAST course, a WAF course, a RASP course, etc. But like actual pen testing, there's just like, there's the Cyber Mentor, there's like all these courses on Udemy, there's like all these like really inexpensive how to pen test courses. And I'm like, I take a really long time to make a course. Like,
gotcha.
like, it's awesome that someone else can like just sit there and make like a 4-hour video and put it out, and that's great. And they charge like $18 or $50, and that's awesome. But like, we're charging like a couple $100 per course, and it's like there's like 110 videos, and there's like 8 exercises, and there's like 10 quizzes, and there, do you know what I mean? Because like,
Right.
I want someone to be able to finish our course and go do the job. And so like, so far 100% of our grads have a job in their field. That's pretty,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay.
So
right.
like, I want like, I also feel like there's like a lot of training that I've taken where they're teaching me that's super cool. And I'm like, that is cool. I will never use this at work. This is completely unrelated and non-applicable to any place I've ever worked. And so you just spent 30 minutes teaching me how to exploit this random vague thing that I'm never going to find. And like, I am really super concentrating on like stuff you do at work every day. So like, reviewing designs is a thing that like security architects just do all day long. And if you're an AppSec person and you know how to review designs, like, you get an extra hat. Does that make sense? Like, you can consult anywhere.
Got you. Well, at least vulnerability verifications, because
yes,
there's a lot of false positives.
Oh yes, yeah. So if we're, for instance, like, let's say in the DAST course, it'll be like, okay, so validate these results. Which ones are real? Which ones aren't real? And why? And some of them, like, that was the hardest thing for me to learn as a pen tester, honestly. Like, okay, so I scanned it with burp. Great. What does all this crap mean? Right? And they're like, oh, there's blind SQL injection. I'm like, okay, so I've read about that on the internet. How can I tell if it's real?
Yeah.
And I had joined this team of pen testers. So there's like 11 pen testers on this team. And we would all go and like test different places in the government. And so it was like, we're consultants, but we're all full time. And they would just send us off to different departments to test. And so I would follow some of them because I was the super junior person. And one of them's like, oh, just delete those. They're usually nothing. I'm like, well, shouldn't we check them? He's like, nah, it's probably fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you should have seen the things that some of them tried to teach me. Some of them were great, and some of them were the opposite of great. I would like to say that.
Yeah.
Ooh,
fair enough. Yeah.
Sometimes you learn what not to do from your mentor.
Those are the best lessons. Those are the best ones. Like, okay, I'm not going to do that. Thank you. Not doing that. All right. So final question before we get to the Q&A. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show, but I ask every guest why. And the why, when I usually say that, is because people who I mentor, when they ask me about getting into cybersecurity or pen testing or whatever, I ask, my question is, well, what is your why? And it can't be, because I heard you can make 6 figures, or I really like Mr. Robot, or I heard there was a gap, so I just figured I'm just going to jump in and make, get a job immediately. It has to be something, because like you said, there are days where it's extremely frustrating. There are days where I don't care how much you get paid, you're sitting there wondering, did I make the right choice? Like I said, it gets rough. So, Tanya, what is your why?
I want to perform good in the world as part of my work, if that makes sense. And I believe that helping people make things more secure is performing good, if that makes sense. So when you help someone secure an app, and then someone does not have their identity stolen, or does not have their bank account emptied, or does not have their personal health data spilled all over the internet, to me, that means like I've helped to protect them. And so I feel like cybersecurity is good work, like it's noble work. And I also just love tech and love just being like a super nerd. So I didn't want to do anything that wasn't techie, if that makes sense. So I was like very interested in a couple of different things when I was deciding that I would consider switching out of software development. But I also just like love writing apps sometimes. So I liked that door is still kind of open, if that makes sense. part of my why, like for starting my company, is so that I could scale. So this sounds really silly, but at Microsoft, they kept telling me, Tanya, you need to learn to scale. You can't fly to every place on the whole planet, although you would think I tried. So they're like, instead of, flying more, you could write more. Instead of speaking in person every time, you could do some virtual talks. And so I was like, I think I'm going to write a book. And they're like, yes, exactly. That's scaling. And then I said, I think I'm going to start my own company. And they're like, no, don't leave us. That's not what we meant. They were very supportive. Like my teammates were so sweet, but they're like, yeah, that's not what we meant. But I feel it's a little bit, so like as much as that sort of backfired on them, I hired a sales guy last year, like right before Christmas. And in January, he quit. You want to know why he quit? So I was like, you should take our AppSec Foundations program so you can like learn about what we're selling. And he kept telling me, oh God, it's so good. Oh, this is so interesting. Oh, I really like it. And I thought he was just doing that because he's my employee. And he was like,
kissing up,
saying, yeah, kissing up, right? Like that's what I thought. And so then he's like, I finished the course. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm quitting to do AppSec. And I was like, what? He's like, I don't want to do sales anymore, Tanya. I love AppSec. And I was like, oh, so then he quit. And so he's one of our grads and we helped him find a job because that's what we do. And he's really happy now. But I was just like, this is what I get. This is like my Microsoft manager that told me, like, you've got to scale. Like, you should write more instead of flying, or like write a book instead of blogging, or you should do that. And I'm like, I'm going to start my own company. And they're like, no. Like, tasting my own medicine.
Well, hey, at least it's a great success story.
It is, but it's kind of ironic. And so now I have to do all my own sales calls because we're hiring in case anyone's interested. But I'm just like,
like, yeah, that's great. No.
It is great. I just don't like, oh, hi, Mary. Oh, I see Mary. Hi.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into the Q&A. So, well, before we do that, again, Tanya, I believe in giving everybody their flowers while they are there to smell them and appreciate them. I appreciate you joining the show. I think what you're doing is amazing. Everything you're doing with the book, the academy, how you want to help others. I definitely think it should be celebrated and commended. So again, I applaud you and I thank you, and you are an inspiration. And just keep being awesome.
Thank you.
Let's
so are you going to tell them? Are you going to tell them?
Okay, you know what? Okay, all right. You know what? I was going to wait, but Tanya keeps pushing. So, everybody, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. But the conversation will not be over even after we're done with InfoSec Unplugged. Reason being is because Tanya also has a podcast on YouTube called the We Hack Purple Podcast, and tonight's guest will be me. So we'll be basically switching roles and continuing our conversation over on her channel. So I do have the link in the description because I said I was going to do that. So go check out the We Hack Purple podcast, or go check out their channel, and make sure you tune in at 9:00 tonight. That's 9:00 Eastern, because she will be interviewing me on her show, and we will be continuing the conversation. See, I was going to say that in a few minutes, but so yeah.
I'm too excited.
I'm going to be on Tanya's show. Tanya just bullied me to say it now, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm like, he's going to forget. No.
Trust me, I'm not going to forget. We've been planning this for a couple months now. So, let's go to it. Dimitri says, I am such a fan. I'm trying to break into tech this year. I'm really excited. Dimitri, good luck to you. And, if there's any way I can help or Tanya can help, our contact information is in the show notes. So,
yeah. And he could use Cyber Mentoring Monday to try to find a mentor.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And I wrote this blog post called Jobs in Information Security to try to help people learn about all the different jobs that exist. So you could read it and then try to figure out which one matches you the best. Because I found it really hard to figure out which job I wanted. And then once I figured out AppSec was a thing, I was like, everything else disappeared. And I just like laser focused and immediately moved in on it. And like choosing's really hard.
No, it is. Like I said, I mean, once I discovered pen testing, I was like, yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. But there is a very close second, which is cyber forensics, and it just didn't work out because in the Northeast, where I used to live, in order to really get a decent job in cyber forensics, you had to be in law enforcement, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, not for everyone.
Yeah. So Kobe Lewis, what's going on, sir? Says laughing my ass off at the hair, and then Dimitri follows up and says Trudeau loves his hair, though. Seriously,
We love his hair.
everybody loves the hair. Person centered cyber. Cheryl Abrams says hi, all. JB at Cyber Insight says hey, everyone.
Nice.
William Hardison says what's going on, team? What's going on, William? Let's see. Willie Beeman, another friend of the show, says, good evening, Davin, and shout out to Tanya Janca and everyone in the chat. Ladera Jackson, she sounds familiar because that's my wife. Oh, I'm sorry. If you're in the Georgia area and you need a custom cake, please check out One Dream Cakes and Treats. That's my wife's business. And also, you guys got to totally look out. You got to see, I posted it on Twitter the other day, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. She actually did a sculpture, like an Egyptian goddess sculpture, and it was like amazing. And I'm not just saying it because I'm married to her. She's actually amazing. I'm super proud of her. And
you should show a picture on the show sometime because that sounds kind of awesome.
What I damn it. Let me hold on. Let me see. Now we're gonna let's see if we can get to it real quick.
Ooh, someone in the chat's like the cake looked awesome, and someone else says it was a bomb.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, and like I was here. I mean, I'm here throughout the process, and it was just like, huh. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen real quick. So I might lose audio, but nope. Okay, I can still share audio, and we're gonna do. So yep. So you see, and she has the hieroglyphics there. She did the brooch.
That's amazing.
Yep. Now there's a whole video on Instagram. Let me just close out of here. So yes, there's a whole video she did of the on Instagram with the music and all of that. But like I said, she's just great, and she's an even better person and wife. So I love you, babe.
Awesome.
So let's see here. Oh, she actually says hi, Tanya.
Hi. Your cake's amazing. Sometimes I bake too, but it never ever looks that good. Just to be clear, looks aren't everything.
So Dimitri says ADHD are here. Shout out to learning disabilities.
Yeah.
And then they also asked, is We Hack Purple more for seasoned InfoSec or can beginners learn as well?
It's more for beginners right now. So the AppSec, so we have kind of two ways to learn, and one is to join the community and you receive drip content at the level that you're at. So if you're a super duper beginner, don't know anything about InfoSec, then you sign up for that drip. But if you're like, you know what, I just want to see DevSecOps and cloud security, you just sign up for those. And then there's all these different discussion rooms. And so you would go to the more beginner discussion rooms and ask questions and read content there. And for the Academy, our course is specifically for people starting at the beginning of AppSec. So if you don't know any IT at all, it would be pretty hard, I think, to do the AppSec Foundations program. But if you understand the very basics of the idea of building software, so the idea that there is code and there is a compiler, and there's the system development lifecycle, which is the process that software developers, to figure out what they're going to code it, test it, release it, etc. then you know enough to start the program. It's better if you have more experience, but it's not necessary. And so we start right at the very beginning, like, what the heck is application security and why do you care? All the way up to like very advanced activities. And we build an AppSec program with you. So you take the course and then you can actually put in all the stuff from your office and then come back to work with like this 9-page plan of what to do, which is part of the part that clients like the most. So when I teach it live, then we build their AppSec program together and add additions to their program together, which is like pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah. Cyberpack, another friend of the show, says, hey, fellow Canadian.
What's up, A?
My wife says, I think when you were talking about how they broke the book up, she says, I love that.
Yeah.
God love sisters.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Cyberpack also says, love your cup.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have a cup too. See, but my cup was back when I was doing the do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Sounds like your cup is like a bit intense. Like,
well, because people just want the end result. They want to get they want to get to the 6-figure salary, but they don't want to do anything in between. Tyler Hawkins says, always dropping gems. I appreciate that. Let's see. It says great marketing team. Let's see. We're gonna go.
Yeah, my marketing team is always just like, oh my God, Tanya.
Tezero says, blessed afternoon. Well,
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening. Well, good it's evening, but for here. So I love your energy. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you, Kobe.
DevSecOps says, William Hardison says DevSecOps. Yes. Professor Black Ops says, shout out to Zero Trust.
Zero Trust rules.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Alan Stevens says, good info.
Thank you.
Trent says, Microsoft Edge has a read out loud option. I don't like any of the read out loud options.
Yeah, it's not the same as when someone reads the audiobook to you. It's not the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I applied for my book to be an audiobook, and then stupid COVID happened, and like a whole bunch of we're not sure what's going on is going on right now. And I'm like, I really want to read an audiobook. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, Majestic Logic says ethics is real in this field. It is. You do have some people who, speaking from a pen tester's perspective, you do have those pen test puppy mills where they're just there, and companies who literally just doing the pen test because they have to do it for compliance reasons, but don't really care about the results. So ethics is major, and if you take your job seriously or you care about the work you do, it bothers you. There have been times where I've literally been upset, and my wife is like, "But it's a work thing," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but." My name's attached to it, or I've literally refused to sign my name on some reports. Like, nope, I'm not doing it. No, not at all. So yeah, ethics is definitely important. Mr. Untouchable says, great insight here. Always important to make an impact than a paycheck at some point in our careers.
Yeah.
Yep. Impact over income. No, it is. Don't get me wrong. We all have bills.
I like money.
Yes, we all have bills. We all like to, everybody wants to talk about vacations and stuff, and vacations cost money. But you get to a point, and like I said, I think that's where I am. Well, I started to now, and now I'm just like really just embracing it. Where it's just like, yeah, I want to make money, but I also want to help other people make money, especially coming up how I came up, where this wasn't always an option. Hell, some people might still think that this isn't an option. So it's like, we can do this. So, that's kind of my thing. Is like, yeah, I want to get paid to hack, but I also want to teach people to do it. And so if I can get paid to teach to do it, sure. Then Mr. Untouchable says, don't get me wrong, the paycheck is still important, but there's only so much income you can earn that'll make you turn a blind eye to ethics, morals, and impact at an organization. No, my number one rule is never to compromise your integrity. I can't like that. Nope. You never compromise your integrity, no matter what the paycheck is. Sorry, that's like selling your soul,
Yeah.
and my soul's not for sale. So,
Yeah.
Watson InfoSec says this is so awesome. Thank you, Brandon Robinson says see you, bro. Brandon, I appreciate you here. I know you also have. Aren't you? I thought you were streaming too. Hold on. Art Owl says I want to be a ninja. We'll talk to Tanya. Tanya will get you. Tanya will get you set up. Mary Galloway, that's what you saw earlier. Says, "Hey y'all, hey Mary, still trying to get to Vegas." Professor Black Ops says, "How does security? How does the database play into AppSec?" Tanya, would you like to take this one?
So if your app is attached to a database, then that means you need to protect that database from malicious actors. And one of the biggest, scariest vulnerabilities, like for an app, is injection. And so injection is where basically a malicious actor puts code into your app in a space where data should be, but it tricks your app into thinking, oh, this is your code. You should totally run it. That's a good idea. And so if there is SQL injection or no SQL injection, or like basically just any sort of database language injection, it means that the malicious actor can trick your app into putting their code, and their code is getting pushed to your database, and a bad person is talking directly to your database, which is holding, valuable information, maybe sensitive information. And so that means that they would be able to issue commands to your database. And that is the scariest thing from a security perspective. And so protecting your database is really important.
SQL injection is still number one on the OAuth's top 10 for web applications, and rightfully so. Yeah, you definitely, no matter what, if you have a database, sanitize your input, sanitize, encode, all that good stuff.
Parameterize queries. Do
Just
those three things.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then let's see. Then there was a whole conversation about the cake, so I'm not going to show those.
We all agree the cake's fantastic, though.
Yes, we do. Yes. And then, how is AppSec different in the cloud?
AppSec's different in the cloud because basically the roles have started to change. So devs used to just write code and then throw it over the wall to ops, and then ops had to try to support it. But now with the cloud, devs are able to basically like deploy infrastructure, and they're able to change different settings, and they're also able to do, oh, someone's saying sanitize your hands, sanitize your input, sanitize your sanitizer. Sorry, I couldn't help but read that. So AppSec in the cloud means that you have to learn a certain amount of cloud in order to do a good job. And if you have a cloud security team and a cloud architect security team, that's awesome, but a lot of places don't have it. And you as the AppSec person quite often gets assigned to that. So for instance, I was reviewing a design like 2 weeks ago with a client, and I was like, we need this and this and this and this. And then one of the new guys was like, well, should we have a firewall here? And I'm like, oh, we're not the network security team. And then the client said, we don't have a network security team. We don't have a cloud security team. So we have a flat network in the cloud. And I was like, okay. I was like, circle, like, right? And I'm like, do we want to do zoning, or do we want to do zero trust? And like the conversation totally changed. And so if you don't know any of that, you'll have less input to give. Does that mean that you have to learn all of cloud in order to do AppSec in the cloud? No, but if you don't know the basics, like especially understanding the idea of zero trust and understanding all the different types of applications that can live in the cloud, especially serverless, especially cloud workflows, and especially platform as a service. So to know like what your options are that are different from on-prem. I hope that was helpful, not overwhelming.
Yeah. No, it's fine. But I also think with the cloud, communication and what's the other word I'm looking for? Is it least privilege? Those need to apply, because usually with the cloud, in a lot of companies, they're just like, oh, let's just spin this up. Let's just spin this up quickly, and there's no security, in the conversation. It's like, oh, we just needed to do this, so we just put it up. So there's definitely needs to be,
you can so you can create templates, and you can also create workflows within your cloud to alert the security team when certain things happen. But if you don't set any of that up and you don't have any safeguards, well, it's not going to be very safe with no safeguards.
Yep. Okay, so I'm jumping around a little bit because Professor Blackup says OWASP top 20 has been the same for the last 20 years. What is the solution? Yes, most of them. They change it they update it every 2-3 years, and yeah, a lot of the same attacks are on there, but they're there for a reason. So it's not like they're just there. They're just saying, oh, we're just the 2021 version. There's not that they're going to say, let's just repeat the 2017 version or the 2019 version or whatever. No, it's there because those are still the most relevant attacks that you see in Webapp applications. Yeah. So the solutions are to figure out how to fix those vulnerabilities in each of the OWASP top 10, unfortunately. And then also, again, knowing what you're dealing with. Like the OWASP top 10 does not apply to everything. So like, for example, APIs. OWASP top 10 for web application does not apply to API attacks. SQL injection is not as popular or is not as relevant in the OWASP API top 10 because there's not a lot of
difficult
injection. However, IDORs or broken object level authorization attacks or broken function level authorization attacks are really popular in the APIs, which essentially to me is the SQL injection version for APIs. You're not necessarily talking to the database, but you're bypassing certain things. Like you were like in your example you were saying earlier about the kids who were competitive about the scores, but if so they can look at each other's scores, but someone else can say, okay, well, I can iterate this and say, okay, well, if user 1 is this and user 2 is this, let's see what happens if I put user 5 or user 10. And now you're literally just changing. You might be changing one little number in the URL, and you're getting information that you're not supposed to, or with broken function level authorization. Okay, so if this says API ... / whatever user, oh, what happens if I put admin? Oh, look, I'm
the admin.
Admin level access. So that's the other thing. You can't. A lot of people just use the OWASP top 10 for everything, and you have to know who you're dealing with, know your opponent. So all right. So hopefully I didn't go off too with. And then I think the final question we have here is it possible for a zero experience person to apply to IT level 1? He says he's in Montreal and they seem to be asking for experience each time.
So a lot of basically HR and security teams are like, oh, I want someone with 20 years experience in some tech that's only existed 10 years. I want to pay a junior level salary for someone that has 10 certs that would cost $100,000 to get and like 8 years experience. But then I want to pay them for a junior job. And that's just not going to work.
Entry level, but have your CISSP.
Yeah. And you need 5 years experience to have your CISSP, right? So then how would you do that if you're entry level? And even if you have other IT experience and you add it all together, you still have to have a certain amount of security experience to even apply for the CISSP. And so when they're posting things like that, it's often the HR department, or it's like them fishing, hoping they could get someone like that. But if I were you, I would apply anyway and tell them why you would be awesome for their job, especially if you can tell them things about themselves that are good. So for instance, I hired a marketing student this semester for a job. And I was like, I want us to do all the examples from this marketing book. So I read this book, it's awesome. And it has all these marketing experiments. So I've been having trouble marketing my company because I don't want to do stuff that makes me feel crappy, or manipulative, or things that I would be embarrassed about. So I've had to reject a lot of marketing strategies as no. I would be embarrassed if my customers knew I was doing such manipulative things. So we have this set of values, and if they don't pass the values, we don't do it, right? So I'm like, I found this book. I actually like the stuff in it and respect everything they have to say. So then the marketing student applied. She's like, I've already read the book, and here's ways I see that we could apply it to your company. Well, you're hired. Like, forget the rest of the interview. Forget it. You're just hired. How much money do you want? Right. And of course, she's been outstanding. Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you can do a thing like that with them, like the fact that she read the book, I was like, wow, you're serious.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can show them anything that you know about them or why you love their company. So in Montreal, like, I don't know if you're applying to, but I know Ubisoft has a company or like a location there, and they're a big game company, and they have a big security team. So let's say you're applying there, you could tell them, like, I have all your games rule. I love this and I love that. And I think it's cool how you did this. And, you know, that Code Red team got, like, their app got hacked and like their game is gone. And so, like, I have all these ideas of how we could secure your games. And, you know, I'm just such this huge fan. It would be so amazing to work at your company. And like, here's all the things I've studied, etc. Right? And show them, like, I am a go-getter. You're going to hire me. What I don't have in experience, I will make up for in energy and stubbornness.
Yeah.
Right? Also, network. Meet all the people you can. So I know right now with COVID, it feels a lot more complex, but you can join community groups and meet other people. And I have gotten almost all my jobs exclusively through that. Like, I didn't apply to work at Microsoft. Someone I know interviewed for the job, and apparently during the interview said, you don't need me, you need Tanya Janca. And then they reached out to me. And so the more people that you know, the more people that you've shown value to. So I don't mean networking by going to Meetup and saying, I need a job, will you help me, to random strangers. That's annoying. That's like saying, I'm not helpful and you don't want anything to do with me because I am a taker.
Yeah.
So if you work on an open source project, if you volunteer to help organize a meetup, if you, like, anything you can do to show value, like one company that I applied for, so that big pen testing team I joined, they're like, you don't have any experience and you don't know what you're doing. So I did an entire pen test for them for free. And I did it like where I worked, I got permission, and then I remediated all the things, and I just kept sending them updates. I'm like, here's a report I made. Oh, here's how I remediated and patched these servers. Here's how I did this. Here's how I did that. And finally they're like, fine, just come work here. Okay.
Yep.
So there's like, yeah, so you can do it, but you have to work harder. And I'm sorry that the ads for jobs are really stupid right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't qualify for half of them.
I don't. Hell, I with all my certifications, my CISSP, my GPEN, everything, I don't. And which to that, my point was, don't be intimidated by the job listing. You don't have to have every single thing that they're looking for. This is their wish list. This is their their ideal candidate. But the sad part is when you actually get in there and speak to them, and you actually start to talk to some of the HR people, you're like, you do know that ideal candidate you're looking for would cost you way more than what you're willing to pay. So, I would, if there's five things that they're looking for, if you have two or three, apply. The things that you don't know, do a quick little Google search and see if you can understand it. But don't lie. Go in there and say, okay, so I'm not 100% familiar with it. I understand the basics. Talk about what you learned in your little bit of research.
Mm-hmm.
But then say, but I am willing to go and look into it. Like I said, I got a job in application security and didn't really know anything about application security outside of pen testing. So, and I said that I walked in there and said, listen, APIs and application stuff, like, I know it enough to look at it when I'm testing a web application. to sit here and then have a meeting with developers and stuff like that, this is a new thing for me. However, I am a quick learner, and then you show what you have. You know what you do know. Show that you're strong in what you do know, and that where you're weak, you can build that up because you're strong in other places. Mary says, "What's the book, Tanya? The marketing book?"
Oh, the marketing book is called Traction. And like if you just look up tractionbook.com and also growthhackingbook.com, both those were really good. Yeah, but Traction, I really liked it. And also Superfans by Pat Flynn. So basically, like I'm not willing to do, so just, I kept firing marketing consultants because all the advice really disgusted me. Like, you should pressure them and you should like play on their fears. And I was like, you should go find a job at another place. I just, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I know that that's what they taught you in school, but that's not, first of all, like how I came to be well known. So that's not okay with me. So for instance, the Superfans book talks about just like awesome stuff you can do in your community. And like half of it, I'm like, oh, I already do that. But the other half, I'm like, that's brilliant. That'll be so fun. And like, it's like how you can help people engage with each other, how you can engage with them more, how you can like make your community members feel valued. And I'm like, yes, that is what I want to do. And it's like, so like there's different ideas on marketing. And I guess like I want people to have really good experiences and learn a lot and feel good and confident. And I feel like then if they tell someone that can be a lot of the marketing, if that makes sense, rather than, so for instance, like I don't really buy paid advertising. I briefly did right before the book, just because I wanted to try to get on a bestsellers list, which totally worked, and I did, but mostly because everyone on the internet is wonderful. But like, I don't really do that. I'd rather like write a blog post that gives lots and lots of value to people. And then someone will be like, oh, maybe her courses are good and I'll check it out because of it. Right. And so like you can do like value-based types of things. So yeah, basically, I guess like my poor marketing team, I'm like, so I'm going to tie like one arm behind your back. Like, I don't want you tracking and stalking people across websites and other things like that. And like, I do want to know how many people visit our website per day, but I don't want to track them around the internet. That's crap. Right. Like there was one website design company that offered to let me see the people's eyes who visit my website. And I was like, oh, no, thank you. Oh, I know you can do that.
Yeah, but
I'm like,
yeah, but
I was just like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the marketing world is shocking.
Yeah. Look, they sound like they want to be hackers.
Oh, they are, like the level of stalking that they do. Like you can buy people's personal information and then like follow them around the internet and like retarget them / literally stalk them. And I'm like, no, like instead, you know what, if I'm going to follow someone around on the internet, maybe it'll be because I spoke at this conference and then I wrote this blog article and then I was on this podcast. And like, maybe it's like more work, but I don't feel gross about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So this has been like a big battle for us.
We're going to wrap it up because like I said, we got to get ready for your show. But he says, very insightful. Thank you. Let's see. William Beeman says, it's crazy rough out here. Just apply anyway. The job postings are very particular. Most of the time I have the experience, but didn't work on their applications and systems. I know the feeling. No, like I said, it is. It sucks. Like the market is just, and it's rough for all of us, especially right now, Q1.
Oh yeah. Having no sales for the first 2.5 weeks of January, it felt very chilling.
Yeah. Most of this stuff isn't going to open up until at least later on this month or April. Kalila Scott says that's creepy. It is. And Majestic Logic says, my mentor, Alyssa Knight, shout out to Alyssa. I actually need to reach out to her. Was nominated with you for Woman Hacker of the Year 2020. How was the experience and what doors did it open for you? Well, that's right. Congratulations for that. We didn't even talk about that.
Thank you. So in 2019, we were both nominated too, and I won. And then in 2020, we were both nominated, and we both lost together very gracefully to Chris Kubecka. And I was like, Chris Kubecka hacked a plane. Alyssa hacked a car. I hacked some web apps. I don't feel like I should win this year. Right? Like I remember my sweetheart's kids were like, oh, another lady won. I'm like, yeah, she hacked a plane. They're like, yes, she probably deserved to win, Tanya. I'm like, yeah, I know. She's actually really cool.
Yeah. And Alyssa did something with, she did like 30 banks last year or something like that. Was that last year? Where she did like,
yeah.
She did 30
and she
banks
wrote
and wrote
that
about
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she wrote a book about hacking cars. So I'm actually like, I'm trying to get her to come on my streams for my book. Yeah. So I'm trying to get her to come on to chapter 2 of the streaming for my book, because I talk about like how to secure a car operating system. And obviously we need Alyssa Knight.
Oh yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. Right. So has it opened doors for me? I don't know if it opened more doors. But the first time it did, though. So the first event that was in Vegas, it definitely opened a lot of doors for me. And I would say it especially opened the doors within Microsoft, if that makes any sense, because I was working there, but the VP of security at Microsoft bought a table and surprised me at the event. Yeah, and then she gave me flowers, and I was all like, I'm going to cry and shit. It was great. And then I was like, can I have a hug? And she's like, okay. And like, no one gets hugs from Ann Johnson. So it was like, I wanted to put in my performance achievements, like got a hug from Ann Johnson. Boom.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
it does great.
Working at companies, the company you work for, when you do certain things or achieve certain milestones, it definitely makes them look at you differently. Like after I did the SANS talk, it was like, oh, so is that what you've been telling us for the last 3 months?
Yes.
So
yes, you're like, yes, I exist. You didn't notice me before.
It's like, oh hey, yeah. It was like, yeah, great talk. Why didn't you have it? Why didn't you have it here? Because I've tried, but we're not gonna get it. We're not gonna go there.
Yeah.
Majestic said she's doing healthcare systems now. I know. I actually just downloaded that write up the other day. I'm actually going. That's going to be in my weekend reading. So,
that's cool.
And then my wife says, "Great show." So, again, thank you all for joining. Pack. Listen, I love you guys. Like I said, you guys make it possible every week. I remember starting, like, when I started doing streams, not even the show, and it was just like, I'm here by myself. This is lonely. It's bad enough when you're already in a basement by yourself, but then when you're on the internet and can't find anybody to join you, like there's a whole different level of loneliness. But you guys, you've been building with me. You've seen the show. I appreciate everything. Tanya, I appreciate you being here and sharing, your knowledge and your wisdom here. And for those who are wanting to check out her show, which I am asking that you do, I am putting the link in the chat. And I also have the link in the show notes. So if you want to contact her, you can contact her on, I have you on Twitter. I have your LinkedIn. I have your company's social media information. And then I also have the YouTube channel. And I also have the email link for if anybody's interested in learning. If you are interested in the book, please go pick up the book and support it. It's a great book. I'm not just saying it because she's here right in front of me. I've been reading it. If you follow me on social media, you've probably seen it in a few of my pictures. I have read it. I have highlighted it. I've literally copied and pasted. Stuff and put it in the notes at work. Like, I read this in a book.
No, that's what I made it for.
And then for the marketing, again, now she just provided another link for me to share right here. So please go support the book. Ashley Williams says, love the show, and thank you to Tanya. So again, everybody, make sure you go, take a break, go stand up, get something to eat. Make sure you come back in an hour. Go to youtube.com/WeHackPurple. for the We Hack Purple podcast, and I will be her guest. So once again, it's been another week. If you guys don't know how to follow me yet, you can follow me on Twitter at DJaxAlpha. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/alpha cybersecurity. And also, if you guys want to support the show, you can buy me a coffee. I do actually spend some of it on coffee, but a lot of it does go back to supporting the show. For those of people who are following me on Twitch, I am now a Twitch affiliate. I just haven't set it up yet. So we'll be doing that. And then, like I said, I have other content coming soon, including I'm going to do a live stream study/accountability group. And the first thing we're going to go over is some AWS essential stuff. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Subscribe to all of my platforms so you can get that information. Tanya, it's been a pleasure, and I will see you in an hour. You guys, like I said, sit tight. Like I said, go take a little break and check out Tanya's show later. All right, you guys take care.